Now, I promised you guys episode 100 was going to be special, and it is. And I would usually shoot it in my studio, but it is freezing cold. And I watched The Conjuring 2 weeks ago, and I'm still scared to go in there by myself. So, episode 100 is going to be coming from my bed right now. And episode 100 is, as promised, is how Vic and I met. All right, so we lived in North Shore in Auckland, and Vic lived in Manurewa. And I was with this guy before him, and he broke my heart. Like, he was the love of my life. And when he broke my heart, I never believed in love ever again. So I worked Monday to Friday, and I hired a personal trainer, and I worked out 6 days a week at the gym. And on the Saturdays, I would wake up, go gym, have lunch, go buy my box, and wait till the evening to drink with my girl. And this one particular evening, I didn't want to go out because I was heartbroken. I would work out just to look good for the weekend, and I would get with different guys every weekend. How I didn't get STDs, is beyond fucking me, okay? Beyond me. Anyhow, there was one weekend and I was like, fuck, I really don't want to go out tonight. I was just not in the mood. And my girls were like, Sana, come on, please come out. And I was like, no, I really don't. I want to stay home. And my dad heard me. And my dad is like my hype man. Like, he was there with me when my heart was broken. And my dad was like, go out with your girls. You can rest when you get home tomorrow. And I was like, fine. So got our box, had pre-drinks, and we ended up at Guardas. At the time, I was seeing this guy, and he wanted to be exclusive, and I was like, no, I don't want to be in love with anyone. But he was like, he would tell everyone I was his girlfriend, and I'll tell people, he's my thing. And so we went to Guardas, rocked up, me and my boyfriend were dancing, and next to Guardas was this petrol station. And I say to him, can you go get me a packet of smokes? So he goes to get me a packet of smokes, and he says to his mate, hey bro, can you look after my ginge while I go to the shop? So I'm dancing on the dance floor, and his mate is behind me, and I'm grinding on his mate, and his lahor just goes beep. And when his lahor's rising, I'm like grinding on him harder, and he moves to the side. And I'm about to fall back and someone catches me. It's Victor. So before my ass even hit the ground, he picks me up with his 2 hands on my ass. And I looked up at him because Victor's really tall, and I am a sucker for tall, black, thick men, okay? That is my weakness. And I was like, oh my God. And I grab his head and we hook up. We literally hook up in the middle of the dance floor, and I'm wasted. And he didn't even back away. He was full on kissing me. And then we stopped kissing, and he pulls me to the wall in the nightclub where it's a bit darker, and we hook up even more. Where my boyfriend's friend was, I have no idea. So anyway, we're hooking up on the wall, and then I'm like, period. And I turn around and I'm grinding on him. You know, his hands are not even on my hips. And I see my boyfriend walking towards me. And my boyfriend's like this, and my boyfriend comes and he's like, who's that guy? And I was like, wasted. I was like, oh, that's my cousin. He's just asking for a ride home. And my boyfriend's like, oh, okay, I'll meet you outside with your smoke. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I turn around to Victor, and Victor's like, who was that guy? And I was like, oh, that's my cousin. He was just asking me if I was all right. Anyway, I end up going outside for a smoke. I forget about Vic, and then me and my girls are like, let's go Lepuha. Now, Lepuha was a club that didn't close till like 5 or 6 in the morning. It's a Tongan nightclub. So me and my girls get ready to go to Lepuha. We walk out of the club. I don't care about my boyfriend. I don't even care about Victor. We're just getting ready to go because I was in a hoe phase. Like I was, and the Tongan boys back then, you know what I mean? Anyway, we are about to leave. And before I get in the car, I look at the Guardas front door and I see Victor and my boyfriend walking out together. And I'm like, oh my God. My boyfriend walks up to the car and he's like, are you going to Lepuha? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm tired. And I was like, yeah, you go home, babe. You go home, babe. Kiss him, and then he goes. And Victor walks up after. And I was like, hey. And Victor's like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to Lepuha. And he goes, oh, okay, can I come with you? I was like, no. And then he put his number in my phone and I totally forget. So then he leaves and me and my goes, go Lepuha. I get with some guy and then we end up going back to my mate's house and we crash out. We wake up the next morning, we're having like a Milo and we're just laughing about the night before. And one of my girls goes, oh my gosh, Sana. I'm like, what? And she goes, do you remember that guy putting his number in your phone? And I'm like, what guy? And I vaguely remember that he did. So I'm scrolling through my phone and because Victor is V, he's right at the bottom. And I'm like, hold on, this name does not look familiar. So I call him and he picks up. And I'm like, who's this? He was like, it's Victor. And I was like, Victor who? And he goes, the guy that put his name and number in your phone. And I was like, how do I know you? And he goes, we hooked up at Guada's. And I was like, no, we didn't. Anyway, ever since that phone call, we have been like this. We have never left each other's side. I ghost my boyfriend, me and Vic hook up a week later. And literally that week, he came over. He came over to my mate's house. We do the deed. We wake up. And I look at him properly. And I'm like, how old are you? And because like he's very dark and he looks actual someone, I said to him, how long have you been in New Zealand for? This a little goes to his car, topless, brings me his passport to prove his age and that he's a New Zealand citizen. God bless his heart. And then fast forward, like we keep seeing each other, we're hooking up, whatever. And then my dad's like, I want to meet him. And I'm thinking, oh my fucking goodness. So our house in North Shore, when you open up the door, it opens up to the sitting room and from the kitchen, you can see who's at the front door. So my dad's in the kitchen. I open the front door and Victor steps inside and I'm so nervous. And then we kiss and my dad pops his head and he's like, Sole Victor. I was like, what? You have got to be shitting me. We're related. And Victor was like, wee, Bekilo. And I was dying. I was dying inside. Turns out they play volley together in, I think it's Mangere. And then throughout the couple of months that we're together, he comes over, talks to my parents, and we find out that my mum and dad had lost their best friends. Not lost, sorry. Lost contact with their best friends when I was younger. And I was the flower girl for their wedding. And their best friend turned out to be Victor's auntie, Victor's mum's sister. And Victor's dad was at the same wedding where I was the flower girl. And Victor was supposed to go to that wedding as well. And I think I was like 4 or 5. And it's crazy because like we were just meant to be. And Victor was best friends with my cousins, my first cousins back in school. And fate was just meant to be. And yeah, that's the story of how we met. And literally, I would say 3-4 months after we met, he proposed to me. And we just never had the money to get married. And I'm really happy that we waited. Because we got married, I think 12 years later, and both our kids were in our wedding. And that's the story of how we met. That's your Bad Things episode 100. So like with all these stories that I read out with like cheating on your partner and stuff, I get you. I've been there, done that back in the day. I'm not saying I condone it, but I understand it because I too was a hoe.